Hello everybody and welcome to my channel, and to those of you that are new. So with Terrifier 3 being released just over a month ago, it's done so well at the box office for an indie independent horror film that's unrated. Now horror is a broad church and there are many different styles of horror which we all, some enjoy more than others, some don't like. And there are a lot of people out there that are really given, the Terrifier franchise, especially Terrifier 3, some negativity. And I understand if people don't like it, that's absolutely fine. But I come up with 5 reasons why I think if you're on the fence about the Terrifier franchise, why you need to watch it. David Howard Thornton's performance as Art the Clown, to me, is already iconic and legendary. I've been to horror conventions and things like that and seen so many fans not only just talking about Art the Clown, but Art the Clown merch, t-shirts, costumes, everything, and that's a real sign that he's really sort of caught on. But to me also, like, his physical performance is just so captivating. Like 1 minute he can be really savage and mean and do the nastiest things to the human body, but in the same breath he'll also make you laugh just with his physical performance and physical humour, his mannerisms, his face expressions, the little nuances in his character and the things he does. I think it's absolutely incredible. And to me, he's like a psychotic Mr. Bean. And I think that needs to be celebrated, because the last modern horror icon that we had, which has sort of stood the test of time, was Jigsaw in Saw, and that's many years ago. To have a brand new horror icon is absolutely incredible. And I mean, I'd love to see David Howard Thornton do other stuff in the horror realm, which I really think he would do. And for me personally, I would love to see him as Freddy Krueger in future. But as Art the Clown, absolutely incredible, and that's one of the main reasons to check out his franchise, because his performance is incredible. Next thing I want to talk about is the use of practical effects in this film. Now, a lot of people just go, oh, this film is just gory, blah, 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 blah. And yes, of course, there's a lot of gory in this film. It's a slasher film. But what people don't understand is, the amount of work it takes, not only to come up with these like kill scenes that Damien comes up with, but also how they're executed. So on the first 2 Terrifier films, obviously Damien only directed the film, but he also did all the practical effects. So, but on Terrifier 3, he brought in Chris Tinsley's studios, which have worked on The Passion of the Christ and American Horror Story, and they knocked it out of the park. I mean, the effects in the first 2 films are fantastic, but the third one, they could be a whole new level of realism, even though they're also very over the top as well. But what we don't understand is that, how they build these things. Sometimes they take days or weeks, maybe months. For example, in Terrifier 2, the bedroom scene with Ali, when her mother comes in, she's sat on the bed and she starts moving and talking. That was an animatronic. That's something they built. Yes, it's graphic, disgusting, but the artistry behind it, the use of latex and rubber and like pumps for blood and stuff like that, how they make it is fantastic. And when you've got so many modern horror films that rely on CGI, which 9 times out of 10 looks fucking awful, to have someone who's committed to practical effects is so much better. Also for actors, because they're actually reacting to it as they're acting. It's physically there that's happening. Whereas CGI, they're reacting to something blank in front of them, because it's obviously computer generated. So that needs to be celebrated a lot. And you really need to appreciate the artistry of these kills in this Terrifier franchise. So the Terrifier films are also known to push boundaries. Like I said, what I just talked about a minute ago, in terms of gore and violence. You get killers like, I love these killers like Michael, Ghostface, all those sort of characters. But art takes it to a whole new level. Just only his, like the maniacal performance of David Howard Thornton, with his comedy element and his facial expressions and the mannerisms and what he does before and after kills. So kills are a lot more drawn out because of that. So they're a lot more of an event in these Terrifier films. And obviously the first film, you get someone like brutally it's cut down the middle with a hacksaw. You had the bedroom scene in Terrifier 2. You had loads of other great kills in those first 2 films. But with Terrifier 3, the way it pushes boundaries, I think, is really smart and really well done. So there is child death in Terrifier 3 on a couple of occasions. But the way it's handled is done very well. They don't actually show you a child being viciously attacked. I think if that had done that, would have turned a lot of people off. You hear things like the sound effects of what happens, and you see a brief aftermath of what happened, and it's horrific. But they didn't, so they pushed the boundary. They could have gone so far and made it really taboo, and killed a child, but that would turn a lot of people away. But to actually use sound design and then aftermath to kill, I think is really well done. But not also like that, there's like animal cruelty in Terrifier 3. Now, if it had been a dog or a cat, people have been up in arms. But instead it's done to rats, and rats are treated as vermin. It's still an animal, but they still cross that boundary. And also the fact is with like Victoria, when she slits her wrists at the beginning of the film, suicide. That's not a taboo subject, but the way they do it, I think, is tastefully done so that you can actually enjoy the film. Now, for me, not really anything in horror films really affects me. You know, I find the Terrifier films gory, fun, and I do think they're generally funny as well. That's just my dark sense of humour. I'm sure a lot of people see that as well. But, you know, they're just films. It's entertainment, and like Damien Leone always said, he wants to make films that push boundaries and takes it a step further than any other director would do. But he also wants you to have fun with it, and you definitely have fun with these films whilst crossing those boundaries. And in Sienna Shaw, played by Lauren Rivera, we have, in my opinion, an all-time great final girl. So, of course, Lauren Rivera's Sienna didn't appear until Terrifier 2, because Terrifier 1 was more of a proof of concept of, look how cool Art the Clown is, look at this fucked up shit that you can do to people. There was really no story element. Obviously, Lauren Rivera came in as Sienna Shaw in Terrifier 2. Immediately with that film, that cemented her as a really cool final girl. And in Terrifier 3, she's a much more unhinged performance because of following the events of Terrifier 2, and she ups her game even further. She's great throughout Terrifier 3, but especially in the third act. Her acting, you know, she really goes to some dark places, and she's just as badass as ever. And, you know, with a lot of big horror film franchises, say like Scream and Halloween, you have a strong female lead. And that's no exception within the Terrifier films. And I think that, you know, she's going to be an all-time great final girl. And also, finally, a really big thing for me with this franchise is that Damien Leone did not sell out. So after the success of Terrifier 2, he was approached by a number of big-name studios that wanted to take on the Terrifier franchise. And when he showed them what he was going to be doing in Terrifier 3, in just the opening 10 minutes, they wouldn't touch it. They said, you know, you basically got to tone this down, you can't do this, you do that. And, you know, Damien could have taken a route where he's like, do you know what, I'm going to hand this off to someone else, and he could have made a lot of money out of it. But no, as a true visionary, he stuck to his guns and wanted to make the film that he wanted to make, because he knew that if he did sell to a bigger studio, they would cut the film completely. It will lose a lot of its edge, a lot of its gore, a lot of its pushing its boundaries. And, you know, he's a dyed-in-the-wool horror fan. He's a horror fan that makes films for horror fans. And he didn't want to dilute this franchise or dilute the character of Art the Clown and his vision. And that is something that I think seriously needs to be commended. I really appreciate Damien's integrity and his honesty to his craft. I think, you know, as an indie film, an unrated indie film that's been as successful as this, especially Terrifier 2 and Terrifier 3, and I think because of Terrifier 3 now, it's going to open up people that may never seen the Terrifier films before. They're going to start watching them all. It's going to have an even increase in popularity. And when you take recently a film like Joker 2 Folly of Due, which I have seen, I didn't think it was as bad as what people made it out to be, but I can understand why a lot of people were pissed off with it. For a film that was at 200 million or something like that, and it's done really poorly at the box office, because they didn't give the fans what they wanted. Whereas Damien Leone knows his fan base, he knows what his fan base wants, and he gives them what they want. I think that is something that is truly special, and why I think Damien Leone is a visionary. And I'd love to see what he's going to do after the Terrifier franchise is finished. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed my sort of takes on why I think you guys should be checking out the Terrifier franchise. And I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Thanks for watching.